Hey guys, this is former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm, and you're watching the 55 Live podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show here on the WZWA Network on YouTube and all platforms. I am your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury, and I'm very excited to be with you here tonight, midnight here in Perth, Western Australia, and something a little different is happening here tonight. Usually I have my co-host, Mr. 55 Live, Jack Wallace, but he is not going to be with us here tonight because someone else who's a part of the WZWA Network is very excited to have the opportunity to be a part of this show as well and speak to the man we're speaking to tonight because he is a massive fan of the man we'll be talking to tonight. So without any further ado, it's Juicy Boy. He is the one and only DJ Daniel Johnston. DJ, how are you tonight, my friend?
I am very good, Carl. I am very good. Mr. Storm, so nice to get the opportunity to talk to you here today.
Yes, it's the one and only former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Tim Storm. Tim.
Man, guys, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we go, what we talk about. And I have never been to Australia. That's on my list of places I have to go before I'm done. So
excellent. Well, we'll have to make sure that we make that happen, DJ. I mean, we've got to cook Tim Storm the Great Aussie Barbecue, right?
They sure do, and that's some good barbecue down here.
Oh, definitely.
I'm a meat eater, so I'm all about it. I did get the chance that's probably 4 or 5 years ago too, and I'm going to draw a blank, but a couple of guys. I think one of them was actually from Perth that made the trip to the States and made the NWA tour. Worked about 5 or 6 shows.
Was his name Mike? Mikey?
Well, one of them was working as I think it was the Great White Shark, but they had an NWA franchise over there for a while, and it was the 2 guys that were running that franchise. And
right, I see.
I think one of them actually had the he had the NWA South American, or at the end of title against, and at the time I had the North American, so we had a match for that, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We'll kick right off here today, Tim, to talk about the early days of you and your wrestling fandom before you got into the business. Obviously, Texas has always been a wrestling hotbed, especially in the 70s and early 80s. What were your first memories of professional wrestling, and who was some of your favorites?
Well, I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is kind of in the deep South. And because of where I was located, I got wrestling 3 times a day on the TV. Right, so I got in the mornings, I got Jerry Lawler, and the USWA out of Memphis. In the afternoons, I got NWA Atlanta Mid-South, and at night I got World Class, which was the Von Erichs. And so I got, Saturdays growing up, I got wrestling 3 times a day. I got to see, and again, this is as a guy who's 30, 40 years later, 3 different styles of wrestling. In the mornings, I saw Lawler, Dundee, Kamala, Honky Tonk, all those guys. And in the afternoons, I got Road Warriors, 4 Horsemen, Wrestling 1 and 2, Superstar. And then at night, I got the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds, and so I got 3 different styles, and all of them all of them made their mark on what I wanted to be.
That's amazing, DJ. I mean, our perspective when we were becoming fans, what did we have?
All you had was you had WWE. You might have had some.
If it was,
you had WCW a little bit, maybe a little bit of TNA.
Maybe, but to have 3. Imagine having 3.
Yeah. Oh God.
One day.
That's one of the things that pre-COVID, that was one of the things that I was most excited about this kind of the state of wrestling. Is there were you could find anything you wanted any night of the week. As with the NWA as we developed NWA Powerrr, it kind of developed a trend that people are following now, where using the Facebook platform, you could have wrestling literally every night, as opposed to I must have a major network to be successful. And I think Billy kind of broke the mold on that and showed how successful you could be using a different platform.
Yeah,
absolutely. DJ.
Absolutely. I think that, NWA Power, and I mean, we'll get to it a little bit later, but one of the things I personally loved about NWA Power was it took advantage of the fact that there are just so many platforms and avenues to kind of get a product out there to a wide audience. And I love that, but we'll get back to that later. According to my information, you were trained by a wrestler named Bill Ash.
That's correct.
Had the territorial career. He worked in the NWA. He worked for Jim Crockett. All over the South, he had a thriving kind of career. How did you come to train with Bill? And also, kind of, what was the philosophy that Bill kind of imbued in you during training? Did his old school kind of Southern mentality, was that really something that he tried to instill in you during training? Or
yeah, I didn't start training until I was 30 or 31, which, as you guys know, that's late in a wrestler's career. That's usually when a lot of guys are getting out of wrestling at that age. And it's something I had always wanted to do. I considered myself, I'm not sure what's left now, but an athlete doing a lot of different things. And my knees had started bothering me doing what I was doing. I don't know why wrestling would thought it would be a relief, but I wanted to try a new challenge. And the first call that I made was to WCW Power Plant, and started talking to them. And at the time I had I was the vice president of a company in Sherwood, Arkansas. I'm, married, 2 kids, house payment, 2 cars, living the life. And I made the call, and the guy there was, and again, you guys probably know this, but it was set up. It was a moneymaker for WCW. They brought guys in, and you really had to want it to stay, because they tried to run guys off the first day.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell me that. But what they did tell me basically was, you need to be under 30. And I said, what if I'm right on the border? And I was over 30. What if I'm right on the border? And he kind of laughed, and he said, you need to be in the best shape of your life. But I was telling a friend of mine that, that I had made the call, and he goes, hey, you probably wouldn't be interested, but he said, I saw a commercial on local TV for, it was called IPCW or something. He said, I'll be real honest with you. The production wasn't very good, but they're advertising a wrestling school in Paris, Arkansas, which from Little Rock was about 2 hours. And he said, might be something you want to check into. So made a couple of calls, connected with Bill Ash, and to his credit, he said, hey, you come out and try it once. And if you don't like it, no, you don't worry about it. Free on the first one. And, it didn't take long for me to realize this was going to be probably the most physically challenging thing I'd ever done. Your question about what did Bill instill in me? Bill was as old school as you could get. Like you said, he came up in the Southern Territories. He was kind of what we would consider a cruiserweight, he was probably 5'7", and at this point he's in his 50s with a pot belly and glasses and balding, and he would sit in the corner of the ring in a lawn chair with a 2x4 across his legs, and that's how he would coach. And the facility was, I wouldn't even calling it a facility as a stretch. You could not stand on the second rope without hitting your head on the ceiling. Much less and again, I'm not going to say that's why I don't go to the top rope, but it established something early on. But he was as old school as you could get. He would say he believed that you couldn't learn more than one thing or more than 2 things in a week. So he would say, this is a hammerlock. Here's how you break somebody's arm. Now here's how you do it without breaking their arm, and you have to choose which one you're doing. And everything he did was shoot. Here's how you have to protect yourself. Here's how you take the hold. And he didn't smarten me up until after the first match I had with him. I mean, he got me in a corner and he said, hit me. And I hit him as hard as I could. you know, I mean, we never worked on punches. I didn't know what a work punch was. He gritted his teeth and he goes, hit me. And I hit him harder. And, you know, we got in the back later and I said, you know, well, you know, he was saying, hey, not bad for a first match or whatever. And I said, did I do something wrong in the corner? And he goes, no. And I said, was I not hitting you hard enough? And he said, you were hitting me so hard I couldn't sell it. So, you know, it was legit. It was it was a fight every time you got in there. And that's just how I learned.
Unbelievable. I think it's really cool when someone says that, you know, you're already set up for life here. You're vice president of a company. You're set for life, but you still have this dream right. to do this thing, and you still went for it, even though you're at an age where not many people would usually go for it by that point.
Well, I did not in my head, because of the reason I brought that up about a house and cars and all that kind of stuff was I didn't pursue WCW because I didn't feel in good conscience I couldn't walk away from my family support. I don't mean walk away from the family, but support of the family. I still had to make a living. I still had to pay bills. And I just felt like doing that locally was a better bet for my family. Yeah. But it was something I wanted to do. And, you know, for wrestling fans out there, if you've never trained, if you've never been in that situation, it's a commitment, and it's a time commitment. For me, it was a travel commitment just to get there. It was almost, 2 hours one way. And it's a physical commitment. You know, it's if you're not in all the way, you're going to get hurt and you're not going to be successful in the training, much less as in a career. So yeah, it was definitely something that was implanted early on, watching all those early shows. And, you know, and the kind of the ironic thing now is, you know, and I don't think it's any secret out there, I'm 56. And as over the last 10 years, as I've done a lot of different shows in a lot of different places, now all those guys that I was watching are now my friends, and I still don't quite understand the age thing, you know, because most of them are only 2 or 3 years older than I am. So it's, you know, so those guys that I'm watching, I still can't put that in my head. I was idolizing guys that were 2 or 3 years older than me and wanting to be them. And anyway, it's a weird concept, but it's been a great ride.
Yeah, definitely. It's a weird business, as they say. So, so getting back to that, you mentioned that, you know, you're now 56, still in obviously fantastic shape, still doing great. You were the oldest person in history to win the NWA title at age 51 when you defeated Jack Stane.
Right.
Can you tell us a bit about what it meant to be counted among those all-time greats that have also held the 10 pounds of gold? And also for you personally at sort of such a later stage of your career, I mean, you'd already been wrestling for over 20 years at that point. What did that mean to you personally on a career, like as a professional, to win such a prestigious title so late into your run?
Yeah, it's a deal where I had committed. I had started doing some work with a friend of. I had made friends with this guy that was a promoter. His name's Robert. Robert had the NWA Texoma, which was Texas and Arkansas. He had 2 franchises, and because I grew up, for me, NWA was wrestling. It was. You know, I'm a big Arn Anderson fan. You know, I mean, just Tully Blanchard. I mean, those guys those were to me, that was wrestling. And I committed to myself. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I had this very big vision, but I remember saying, I don't know what I can do to help the NWA move back toward the prominence that it had, but I want to do something. I want to do whatever it is that I can do. So I committed to the NWA that was going to make that a priority. My goal was never to win the NWA World title. I never dreamed that big. You know, I mean, those were the guys that you said it, the guys that I grew up wanting to be. Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Terry Funk, Steamboat. I mean, those are all NWA champions. And growing up and watching those guys, I never imagined, okay, I'm going to put my name on that list. I won the NWA North American twice, and that was huge for me, you know, because you could at the time we had, I think, 46 franchises or something throughout the US, Australia had one. There was one in Japan. Anyway, so we could say we were worldwide, but it was a big deal to get a local franchise championship, and I never imagined getting the title. And to answer your question, the night that I beat Jax, I did it at NWA Texoma, home crowd, big crowd. They were all pulling for me. It was probably my fourth or fifth shot at Jax, and he'd either we double DQ'd or he beat me every time. And I knew that night that, later I cut a promo about being my mountaintop, and that's just from the heart. I knew that night that they put my list on that list of names with the same guys and 40 others that were amazing. And I didn't know you never know how long you're going to hold a title. That's just wrestling. But I knew that night that my name was on the list and they couldn't take it off. And I knew that was the mountaintop, and at any age. And I didn't know at the time that I was apparently I beat Lou Thesz's record. And just to put your name in that list with Lou Thez, that in itself is amazing. But, I didn't know I was the oldest world champion. It's going to be great when I win it at 56, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you wake up the next morning with NWA World Champion on the side of your head imprinted? Or
I probably woke up cuddling the NWA World title, and not hoping it wasn't a dream. It was, we did it right. Limo, the whole bit after the show, and it was good times were had by all. So, but you also kind of have to carry the deal where, a lot of world champions set that flair being one of them, but apparently the new champion buys, so I spent a lot of money that night and it was worth every penny. So,
yeah. Wonderful. You kept with the traditions, bro. I wanted to ask about a very nice moment here for you. In 2017, you defended the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against the legendary Jerry the King Lawler in your home state. What was it like working with Jerry and defending the championship against him? That's just a surreal moment right there.
Yeah. It's a deal where, again, when I was watching, what were they, USWA in Memphis growing up, Jerry the Lawler was the king. He was the franchise of it was his group. He was usually the champion. Going into that match, we knew it would sell, right? So, but he cut a promo where he said the number of titles that he had held, and it was, I think he told in his promo, he said that he holds the record as the wrestler who has held the most titles in history. I believe every second of that. I believe that's true.
I do think the actual number is triple digits, but
absolutely, and he told the number, and when the match itself, I don't know how old he is now, but he's still in. He looks the same as he did 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And to get in there with him, it was the match. I won't say it was an instant classic from a technical wrestling standpoint or anything, but he surprised me with some things. At one point he hit a drop kick. Which probably knocked me off my feet. Just the thought that this guy was still hitting a drop kick, and not the physical part of it. But it was a good match, easy. And I had worked a lot of shows with him. I had actually lost for an organization in Arkansas. My partner and I lost the tag championships to he and Matt Riviera. So I had been in the ring with him, but that was the first singles match. There was a lot of discussion about that going into it. That was a lot of history in the ring. The match was really good, and he was easy to work with, which some people say he's not. He was easy to work with. We ran about as old school finish as you could run, and the discussion was basically going in there was, I'll see you in there, which I'm 100% comfortable with, and that not a lot of people are anymore, but that's just wrestling to me.
Yeah. Over to you, DJ.
Yeah, so Nick Aldis is a guy who's, really pre-COVID, but aside from COVID, he's been having just the run of his career, the run of his life. What was it like working with Nick? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Nick and I have, because of what we've done together, we have become friends. From that, the first time we met, I'm sure that Nick didn't know what to think about me, and I didn't know what to expect from him. I thought that our first match out there in California, defending the title, it wasn't perfect, but and at the time I was not happy with my performance in the match. Going back and watching the match was really good. The finish didn't come off the way that I had it pictured, but I won that match. I have to be really careful because I have a tendency to start being Nick's hype man, because I believe Nick is, I think he is just an amazing wrestler. I think he's absolutely the full package. If anybody that watched NWA Powerrr, first of all, let's back up. He comes with the British style. So he's a great technical wrestler. Every time I see him, literally every time, my thought is, he's a lot bigger than I remember him being. The dude is 6'4", 250, whatever, comes off the top rope with an elbow. Is a technical wrestler. He can brawl. He can do everything in the ring. If people that watched NWA Powerrr, the first season, he came out and cut just money promos and had the fans behind him. Turned on me, and in season 2, he came out and couldn't get the promo out because people were booing him so bad. Mm-hmm. So he can work both sides of the mic. Obviously, he dresses great. So I mean, he really is. He's the total package from a wrestler standpoint. He's got a great brain for the business. He's an intelligent guy. I mean, I turn into his hype man, but he literally is that good.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you specifically about your work with Nick, because as good as Nick already was, even before NWA Powerrr went onto the air, I personally feel like that work that he did with, turning on you and everything, I mean, I was just captivated watching it. So it was with that where I was sort of starting to think to myself, wow, Nick Aldis is, one of the top names in this business. And that was in no small part just to how dedicated the audience is to Tim Storm.
And nope, that didn't surprise anybody more than it did me, to be honest with you. I don't, I can't tell you how many people, and you feel free to shake your head. It won't hurt my feelings, but I can't tell you how many people, and I'd wrestled for 23 years, basically what I considered at a high level. How many people said, I didn't know who you were until 10 Pounds of Gold, or I didn't know who you were until NWA Powerrr. But walking out there at NWA Powerrr on the first episode, when they told me, and it was a deal where when they came to me and said, we think this can come full circle. We think the story that you and Nick have told, that we should kick off the new program with you guys on the first show in the main event for the title. And like I said, I was not completely happy with my performance in the first match with Nick. I felt like, Nick is great. He carried his load well. I think, again, in retrospect, yeah, it was a good match. It could have been much better if I had performed better. So I felt a little pressure going into that match. And people can say wrestling is a work all they want, but when they said, we want to make this match that if you don't win, you don't get another shot at the title, I didn't jump on that. I didn't go, yeah, let's do it. I was like, seriously? I'm never going to get, I just cut this promo that says it's my mountaintop, and you're telling me. So it was, work or not, it was an emotional deal for me. I was very, very happy with the contest that Nick and I had on NWA Powerrr.
It was great, yeah.
I think we my thing in wrestling as I get older is I can't do everything physically I used to be able to do. So I believe wrestling is telling a story. And I was very happy with the story that we told him, that we continue to tell. They've I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the NWA has come out with NWA's great rivalries. And the first one they did was Nick and I in a 2-parter. And I watch it and I get chills because, because it's so well done the way it's put together. But it really puts into a perspective. It captures the story that we told over 3 years. And then I was very happy to see that at the end it was left open. They didn't say this was a great rivalry. They said, we don't know where this is going to go next or where it's going to end. man, anytime I can get in the ring with Nick, it's a pleasure, and I know that we're both going to work hard, and I'm always confident in what we're going to put out there.
Well, I for one hope that the stipulation gets overturned one day, because I like to see Tim Storm contend for that championship once again.
I second that.
Two-time heavyweight.
Honestly, in wrestling, there's nothing that would make me happier than that. COVID is not doing me any favors. I mean, it's and again, not to be the downer, but and there's a whole lot of things more serious than this, because there's too many people being affected and too many lives and too many sicknesses. But for a guy who is 56, about to be 57, COVID has stolen basically a year at least of my career.
Yeah.
And I don't have much left to give. Right. I mean, I have no plans. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is it, but COVID stole the year that I couldn't really afford to give up, and the clock is ticking. So hopefully we'll get something going, and just give me an opportunity, figure out a way to give me an opportunity for that shot, and I'll give it everything I got.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask at this point, we're starting to talk more about NWA Power. We want to know a little bit about your interactions with Billy Corgan, and how much of what we see on NWA Power is his vision. Is he very hands-on with a product, or does he prefer to just hang back and let you guys and whoever's involved in creative, I suppose you would call it, does he just let everyone do their thing?
That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked it that way. And it's both. Billy is very, very, he loves wrestling. He's passionate about the wrestling business. And I think that's obvious from the fact that if anybody knows the background, he had a pretty bad experience at TNA financially.
Yeah.
And we know that his money is in music. So it would have been easy for somebody without a passion for the business to say, yeah, that didn't work out. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
And he's jumping right back in with love and passion. So he's very hands-on. He's very much a part of the creative. And he's obviously a very creative person in life.
Yeah.
The other side of that, though, is he respects the business and he loves the business enough that once he throws it out there, he's got people that he has chosen, handpicked, that they've picked their roster of guys. And once he throws it out there, it's basically, here's my vision, make it yours, make it happen. Here's kind of what I'm thinking. But he's not the kind of guy that's like, no, I want this. This is what, he understands that he's an artist, and he understands in our own way we are too. So, and I'm active in other organizations where I'm booking and agenting matches and those kind of things. And my approach to that is kind of similar, where I'm going to say, hey, I'm not going to this is me as a teacher, by the way. I go to extremes on my analogy. I'm not going to tell some 400-pound guy, hey, your finish is a 450 off the top rope, because he can't be successful with that. So what I would say is, here's kind of what I'm picturing. You tell me how you can get there. And that's kind of what Billy does. Billy will say, here's the story we're telling. This is what I'm picturing. Make it yours. And then he lets you do it. That opening NWA Power, I was told you're going to get about 60 seconds before the match in a stand-up interview, probably at the podium. And that doesn't even, on my stress level, that's not even a blip on the radar, right? That doesn't bother me at all. But the stress came with 60 seconds. That's all I've got. I'm a passionate person when I love something, and how am I going to get my story and my passion about this match in 60 seconds? So that's what's spinning in my head. I'm getting ready to go out, and Billy is at Gorilla. He's very active. And as I'm going through the curtain, or as I'm standing in Gorilla, Billy walks up and he goes, don't worry about the time. Do what you do. We have full confidence, and we know you're going to make it happen. Take all the time you want. And my body just went, okay, now let's roll. He told the entire crew before our first taping, he said, in a studio setting, a studio situation, no music going to the ring. And again, this is, for most people, this was a weird concept. For old school guys, that's fine, but that was a weird concept. That means that there's no hard beat that you're coming through the curtain. There's no music to get them fired up. When you walk through the curtain, it's you and the crowd about 20 feet apart, whatever response you get. And he said, when you cut a promo to the group, when you cut a promo, it's sink or swim. You either get yourself over or you're probably not going to get another promo. And he said, I'm not trying to put pressure on you. I'm just telling you in front of a live audience with TV taping, you sink or swim. And again, I'm like, okay, who knows? I'm going to go out and be me. And I was very, very, very pleasantly surprised that people responded. I didn't know if they would or not. So yeah, Billy is both. He's creative, he's hands-on, and he knows when to step back and let the artists do their thing.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. I feel like, and I don't want to go on too much of a rant here, but from what I gather with the WWE, God, it's such a shame that some of these guys in the prime of their career, they don't even get given any content to work with. We know nothing about their character. We know nothing about the persona that they're trying to portray because they're just given nothing to work with. So it's so refreshing to hear that in 2020 or 2019, there's someone out there that is allowing these guys to have a little bit of, creative influence in what they do, because no one thinks about their character more than the person that portrays that character. So that they're the best person to go to when it comes to
and again, you've got your finger on the pulse, because it's a deal where when Dave and Billy first talked to me before NWA Powerrr, when they were talking to me about the 10 pounds of gold, the concept of it, as an old school guy, that was not something I was comfortable with. You don't open up the curtain. You don't show people your family, your job, your age. You don't. I wanted people to think, I'm sorry, this is old school, but I wanted people to think I'm Ric Flair, and then I show up in a limo dressed in a suit and making $1 million. Not that I'm a school teacher, right, with 5 grandkids. That's not. So when they approached me about that, what you said is exactly what Dave and Billy said. Right. They said, we believe that we're telling that every wrestler has a story. We believe you have a story that we think people will connect with. We want to tell the story. And I'm like, I've worked hard for 20 years to try to stay in shape, because I don't want anybody to know how old I was. Right. I didn't want to be that guy in the ring that's like, wow, he's in really good shape for 50.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to be, hey, that guy's in good shape. So to open that up, it took a little time. It didn't take convincing, but it took a little time building that relationship and that trust and in each other. Dave sent me some stuff he had done with Drew McIntyre, and he said, this is the concept that I want. I want to open, this is that kind of how I want it to look. I just want to show him you. And I'm like, it took a little time. I got, when you throw your life out there and open it up to people, you're going to get, everybody has a right to their opinion, right? So you're going to get some that don't agree with you or like something. And there was a little bit of that. The biggest was age. They couldn't believe they had, that this new company was going to have a 52-year-old champion or 53-year-old champion, right? After the first episode, the second episode, and I'm going to give them full credit. Maybe it's a good story, but it's the way they present it. The way they were presenting me, people felt connected, and that, I won't say there was no negative, but a lot of the negative went away, and people just got hooked into the story and followed along.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like Terry Funk and ECW when he won their world title. I mean, that was like because it was built up the right way. Right. You didn't care how old he was. It was just such a special moment to see it. So
but here's the weird thing. I can remember seeing Terry Funk at 52, 53 in ECW, and boy, I'm just an honest person. I shouldn't say that, but I remember seeing him like do the moonsault or whatever, and I literally went, he's too old to be doing that. Yeah. Now I'm that guy, right? So I'm that guy. Last night was a Texas bull rope match, and I literally was in there thinking, I'm that guy, right? I don't know, am I too old to be doing the Texas bull rope match? But hey, it's my match. I'm a Dusty guy. I'm following the example of Dusty, so it's okay.
So I just want to follow on a little bit from what you were talking about, kind of working with Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana and the crew at NWA Power. Momma Storm has been a running motif in a lot of your promo work on NWA Power, and she's almost becoming a fan favorite in her own right, despite never being seen on the show. I think the reason why it's become so popular is because it resonates with people. Everyone can relate to, wanting to make their mom proud. And what I was going to ask out, do you spend a lot of time kind of thinking about what you're going to say before you go out there, or do you let the kind of the fire of the crowd and everything kind of take you along for the ride?
I follow and again, I did get to spend a little bit of time with some greats like Dusty, but I'm not going to sit down and say, Dusty shared this wisdom. But from one of Dusty's books, he made the suggestion that you don't practice promos, right? You don't stand in front of a mirror for the promo for the show and do it 10 times, because if you do that, you lose the realism and you lose the spontaneity of it. So I drive as a wrestler, especially in Texas. You guys have a huge place too, but in Texas, I can drive 9 hours south and still be in Texas, right? So if I take a booking in Texas, I can go south 9 hours, or if I go north, I can go through 3 states in 7 hours. But I do a lot of driving, and I'm cutting, especially if I've got one that I just can't get off my mind. I've got a promo running in my head. I don't say it out loud, right? So going out there, I always have usually an idea of what I want to say, the message that I want to come across. But as an old school worker, I was taught, and you flow with the crowd, and you got to get the feeling. If the crowd wants to take you one direction, or if you have something you want to do and the crowd feels something else, you got to go with that, because in the big picture, our job is to connect to the crowd and get some kind of response, good, bad, that the worst is indifferent, right? So in that promo, like the whole Momma Storm thing, again, nobody more surprised than me. I actually got in the ring after that first promo, and Brian Hebner was the ref, and I leaned in, he was checking me, and I went, I might regret that. I don't know how this is going to go. Well, as a wrestler, if I'm in there getting my butt handed to me by Nick Aldis, what I really want is the crowd to want me to come back. So is it good that they're chanting Momma Storm? Is it good? I mean, I'm just saying, they're chanting for my mom. Is my mom now over more than me? And she's not getting her butt kicked, right? So it was something that the crowd loved it. They hooked it. I didn't go out there and nudge, hey, watch me get my mom over, right? It wasn't the plan. That's what happened. So, and I'm glad it happened. Don't get me wrong, but my mom just doesn't get it. Like, she's not a wrestling fan. She's 95. She'll be 96 next month. And I tell her all the time, Mom, they love you. They love you. Look, here's a lady in Scotland wearing your shirt. She's like, well, isn't that sweet? But she doesn't have a clue what that really means, right?
It's great. And I think it's safe to say that you got your mum over more than what Buff Bagwell did with his.
Oh, Marcus. I love him. Love Bagwell.
Me too. I'm a massive fan.
I do. He's a great guy. I love
he's lovely. So like we didn't have this in our questions, but I actually it just crossed my mind. What's in the future for NWA Power? I know we've got this COVID thing, and it's so annoying, and it's just ruining everything. But what is the I guess the plan going forward? When might things pick up again? I guess we don't know, but do you have any inside information for us here?
I wish I did. Strangely, whether it's good or bad, I know what everybody else knows, and I know here's what I will tell people going into the whole epidemic thing when it was shut down. I think Billy, I remember Dave was kind of my guy, my go-to guy. And, Billy's got a whole nother world of life up here that that's his job, right? So the music thing is his primary focus. The wrestling is important to him. So Dave was kind of the guy that, all the wrestling went through to Billy. And I remember, but at one point I remember Billy telling me, he said, he goes, I don't think anybody gets how bad this is going to be. He said, I cannot in good conscience, I can't put the fans in that situation. I can't put my wrestlers in that situation. And he said, I don't see this clearing for a year. And he said, that's not good. Well, and for our particular model, okay, so if we've got a studio show, and I don't know, because I've always tried to figure it out, how many can that studio hold? I don't know. Is it 300? Is it 500? Because it's hard to tell. And you never get an opportunity to go 1, 2, 3. You just can't. But in that model, what are we going to do at 20% capacity or 50% capacity? Are we sitting people 6 feet apart? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. Our model, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
We want to be in the ring. We want to be working, and we want to be working for the NWA. You guys have seen it. I've had a lot of friends and a lot of talent that have moved on to other things just because we don't have opportunities. And I'm that guy I'm the strange one. I'm like, I want everybody to be successful wherever that is. So I'm pulling for everybody. It's okay if they go somewhere else because they're making money, and that's what we're doing. But I don't know the answer to your question. When I see Billy or Nick post about NWA Powerrr, don't look for something soon, I get as excited as everybody else.
Yeah.
Right now, I know that we've got a partnership with Alliance in California, where they're doing their own pay-per-view model and featuring 1 or 2 NWA title matches each week. And we've had, I think, two title changes out there, and then 1 on AEW. I mean, go figure. It's but Billy's never been afraid to work with other companies. He's said from the beginning, that's the model that he wants to follow. So cool. I wish I could give you a better answer, and I wish I had a better answer. I wish I could say, hey, in January, but I have no, I don't know. I'm ready. They've told me forever, not them, but I mean in wrestling, you got to stay TV ready all the time. You just never know. So all of us, I think, work hard to try to be ready and are hoping that that'll happen soon. And the answer is, sadly, when it's safe, we'll be back.
Yeah.
I just gotta hope I'm not 63 when that happens, because I'm pretty sure I'm not wrestling at that point.
I think when we put this video up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have me asking that question and have you say, hey, in January, and that'll be the first bit. And then everyone will want to watch.
Okay. Hey,
like, oh, here we go. We're going to get the scoop. And then they're going to be disappointed.
Tim Storm announces NWA Powerrr return.
I'll get you a lot of hate. And I'll get a lot of hate.
Yes, you will.
DJ, I don't want to take up too much more of Mr. Storm's time. So that last question you had on your list, I think that's a great question to go with before we go with our final run there of stuff.
Absolutely. So you've enjoyed a really wonderful career working across the independents and different NWA territories. And in a lot of ways, you've kind of really had an old school territorial style career in the professional wrestling business. Do you feel that with WWE and now AEW, I guess, becoming more and more synonymous with the concept of pro wrestling, do you think that you were kind of the last of a dying breed as far as being an old school pro?
I think I would gladly represent that. There's a lot of things that being that old school territory type person, wrestler, that we lose by not having it. And I know there's a little bit that's happening in locker rooms, but for me personally, I've gotten to spend, and again, a lot of these are very big names where I'm at. May not be worldwide, but I've over the years I've got to spend valuable hours riding in a car, going to a show where you could sit at the tree of knowledge, right? You could sit and keep your mouth shut and listen. And I've probably learned more in those situations than I have in the ring. Skandar Akbar, Matt Bourne, Jake Roberts, Buck Robley, more current as far as, guys that are younger, but Lance Hoyt and I traveled together for over a year. And in those situations, what you get is and currently, like, one of my favorite travel partners, maybe one of my best friends, is a guy named James Beard, who is a referee, but booked at the Sportatorium. His book now, he and I booked together, but he's booked and been in wrestling. He booked in Japan. Anyway, when you're riding with those guys, you get instant feedback. And it could be as simple as, like for Lance, for example, at the time I had the company we were working for was called Traditional Championship Wrestling, and we had a very good TV program, and I was the champion. Well, Lance is 6'7", and I'm 6'3", and his feedback was constant. Why did you do that there? What did you think when this happened? I don't care who that person was and where they from. Why are you bumping for that person? In every one of those situations, that's learning. And from the old school, scene, you got that every day. You got that after every match. You did nothing but talk wrestling. One of the gifts that wrestling gives is you have to travel. You have to work in front of different crowds. A crowd in Arkansas is going to react to something completely different than a crowd in Detroit or Los Angeles or Perth. You don't know. So you've got to expand your repertoire, and you've got to listen, and you've got to feel the passion, and you got to pass that back to the fans. Again, Mick Foley tells a story in his first book, and he talks about his first tour was in Africa, and he was with Dominic DiNucci, the guy who trained him. And he said he tried everything he could think of. They were outdoors. He took a backdrop on the grass to crickets chirping. And he said DiNucci grabbed him in a rear chin lock and locked it in, and the crowd went crazy. And he said right there, it clicked. He said, we spent the next 10 minutes doing every amateur reversal to the crowds clapping like it was WrestleMania. But that's what you got. But that's what you've got to develop as a wrestler, right? You can go out and have the best match in the world planned in your head, and you hit your first spot to no reaction, and you better be able to change, right?
Yeah.
You better be able to react. So that's a long answer, but I think that, yes, that the territory things is unfortunately, there'll always be independent wrestling, I hope, but it's a dying thing. If I can in any way represent those guys who came before us and made this business so great and, paved the road, I got to spend time with Kevin Sullivan. We're starting to use him on a local TV thing that I'm helping with. And I sat at the learning tree with him in a booking meeting learned. I mean, one of the best minds in the history of wrestling. I just, So anyway, that was a rant. Sorry, you got me going. You got me fired up. I'm sorry.
Having a little booking lesson with Kevin Sullivan is like probably sitting there and having a musical lesson with John Lennon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that would have been.
Well, and I've been helping book this show since its inception with James. And he and I basically our philosophies are just one. But okay. I don't be a name dropper, but I've got James, I've got Teddy Long, and I've got Kevin Sullivan and myself in a booking meeting.
Oh man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that.
I'm 56 years old. I'm the youngest, least experienced guy in the room, right? And I'm just basically sitting and listening, and I'm still going to throw in my ideas because that's who I am. But man, what a team of guys that know the business.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So it was a lot. It's a lot of fun. The business is good.
Wow. So we do have a segment when we end the show.
That sounds incredible.
It's called 5 Second Frenzy. But before we get there, Tim, I have a few other quick questions. Ribs. Do you have any rib stories? We love rib stories on the show.
Okay, I'm gonna set myself up to be ribbed by saying this. I think that when you become the older, well-respected, wrestler in every locker room, you get ribbed less.
Yeah.
But there, historically, there's always those. And I'll tell you, one of the guys that used to drive me the most nuts is Lance Hoyt. Lance's thing was, and we're good. Again, I don't want to kill his murder hawk, I'm a monster gimmick, but he's a great guy. He is. He's just a great guy, and he loves to. As you're walking, as you're standing in gorilla, not even if he's in your match, but if you're standing in gorilla with your belt on, your championship title on, he likes to try to time it just as you go through the curtain where he pulls the snap so it falls off when you walk through the curtain.
That's so annoying.
That's gone. That's gone.
We were running my long-term tag team partner, Apocalypse, Adam Asher. We were very, very dark heel tag team 15 years ago. I mean, it was very dark, very ultra violent kind of stuff, blowing fire. Anyway, we came out as we made our entrance. They changed us to cheerleader music as we came out, which is also doesn't get over your dark, killer gimmick. But I love wrestling. The ribs are just a part of the business. I think it's getting less and less, but. I'm not going to say I'm immune, but I'm not afraid to drop the teacher stare at somebody here.
Yeah, and that's some nice lighthearted stuff.
It's my teacher stare.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask. I mean, obviously, being a wrestler, you're traveling up and down the road quite a lot. Do you have any horror stories of traveling to and from shows, anything that's particularly been a bit scary? Or
you name it. I mean, it's the first one that jumped in my head was the dead body on the side of the road. What do you do? And that was early on. I think every wrestler who has traveled by car has hit apparently there was a terrible accident, they're care flighting somebody out, so you're sitting for 3 hours wondering if you're going to get to the show, throwing a football because it's standstill traffic.
Right.
And then there's always the fun one where you drive 6 or 7 hours only to find out that the show's been canceled, and the promoter has moved. One of my very first shows that was of any consequence had he's King Mabel, but Big Daddy V, Butch Reed, a bunch of guys on it. And Bill Ash was actually helping promote it, but he wasn't the money guy. And Bill called us out all together after the show and said, "Hey, listen, I'm just going to be straight up with you. He doesn't have the money." And
God.
for me, as a guy who's breaking in, my $50 isn't going to kill me one way or the other, But to have Hacksaw Butch Reed say, "All right, where's he live? We going to, I don't care who's it." And he was dead serious. He was going to get his money one way or another. And, there's all those situations. Injuries. I think all of us have had it. I took a crossbody on the outside, and James was the ref, and he came over and he said, "You okay?" And I said, "I can't move my legs."
Fuck.
But that's, again, it was a stinger, and I'd never had one.
Wow.
But I legitimately was laying there thinking, all right, paralyzed. What am I going to do?
Oh my God, how scary.
That's wrestling. And it's, it's not a joke, but you'll hear it. We say it all the time. It's not ballet, right? Things happen. Yeah.
I'm sure across your time in the business, you've had a few weird interactions with fans. Any stories on that?
I think the first one that jumps in my head is the guy who brought me a gimp mask and wanted me to wear it, asked me wanted to trade it for my cowboy hat, and because he thought that would be a great wrestling mask. I don't even know. I think he did know what it was, but I think he would have got it. And then I can't tell you. There is nothing. Well, I'm editing in my head here. There is nothing wrong with collecting wrestlers' gear, but there's always something a little creepy when a guy wants to buy your trunks, but they have to still be sweaty when he gets them. There's a line there that you can't. Hey, we're all money makers, but that's a decision everybody's got to make on their own. I think I'll just hang on to my trunks. I don't need your money that bad. Wrestling is full of people that are. We have to be a little off to do this, right?
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them. So
yeah.
Well, there was a wrestling company DJ and I were a part of a while back, and a guy used to watch our stuff over the internet, and he would always send the request of, can you please have a match where someone wins with a 1-foot pin all the time? He had this thing about
just constantly.
Constantly. Oh, but wouldn't it be great if
Like
there
where
was a
you
match
step
like
on
a
the step on the chest.
No, I'm with you.
Why?
Here's the deal. Maybe we need that. If somebody puts 1 foot on you, you know they're going to kick out. You change the wrestling business. All it takes is one. It becomes a legitimate pin. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't even sell that to myself. You're right.
Before we get to our final segment, 5-second frenzy, do you have any regrets, Tim?
I have been very careful in my career. I always wondered, what if, instead of going to college, getting married, having kids at 22, 23 years old, what if I had gone straight on the old school circuit, trained at 19 or 20? I could have made that. I could have made the old school territory system timing wise. Doesn't mean I'd have been successful. Doesn't mean I'd have, done anything with it. But I'm going to very carefully say that's not a regret. That's a what if. The only two regrets. One is in training, not understanding a spot and 3 months in completely shredding my knee. I regret that. And then the second regret was Bill Ash, the guy who trained me. At one point we were doing TV early. I was terrible. We were doing TV with Harley Race at World League or World Legion, because it becomes both. And at one point, Bill told me, we're not doing that anymore. Oh, okay. And I didn't go. And then later tried to make up for the fact that unknowingly I no-showed Harley Race and didn't make a booking for somebody who I had looked up to in the business and respected. I would never do that because that's unprofessional. Absolutely. I regret that. And he never used me again. So, those are my two real regrets.
I understand, sir. So, Tim, let's get back to some more lighthearted stuff. This is 5-second frenzy.
Okay.
This segment is basically, I just ask you a bunch of questions about you and different things that you like.
Okay.
So, first question on 5-second frenzy: your favorite wrestler of all time?
Dusty Rhodes. Charisma. Can do 60 minutes and look like he couldn't walk upstairs. But I mean, just great.
Yeah, he's great.
Your favorite opponent over the years?
The easy way. Well, man. Okay. AJ Styles athletically and a great guy, but my long-term tag partner and I have worked each other about 500 times, and Adam Asher and I, and you just can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. The favorite match you've ever had?
Sadly, tables, ladders, and chairs about 15 years ago, one of the most violent matches I've ever been in, but it turned my head about what the business could be with fan reaction.
Right. Wow. Your favorite TV show?
Man, I was a big Walking Dead fan. I'll choose that, but I'm also a binge watcher. So, at any given time, it could be anything, but of all time, Walking Dead's probably the one.
Awesome. Favorite film?
I used to say anything with De Niro in it, but even that's changed recently. I'm going to go completely old school and say the original Airplane movie.
Wow,
great movie.
Stupid comedy that's my ballpark. I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
Your favorite musical artist?
Nobody's going to believe this. It's actually going to be Prince.
Bro.
Best of all time.
Yeah.
So
I saw him 2 months before he passed away. He performed here in Perth. Like 2 months later, he was gone.
Yeah. And then secondly would probably be Run DMC. So,
oh, wow. Cool, man. Excellent.
I'm old. What can I say?
You're old, but you're fly. You're fly.
That's right. And if you say fly, it proves that I'm old. So it's just
your favorite food?
Steak. I am I am a meat eater.
We get it all the time. It's always steak or pizza with wrestlers. Favorite place to eat on the road?
For us here, it's Texas Roadhouse. You know,
Yeah, we get that.
steak. But on the road, traveling late at night, Whataburger, which is it's a huge Texas thing.
Okay.
I ate it coming back from the show last night at 1:00 in the morning. So it's good stuff.
Nice.
Your favorite alcoholic beverage, Tim?
You guys are gonna hate me. I have never drank alcohol in my life.
Oh, okay. Well, just your favorite thing.
That
to
explains why you. That explains why you're in such good shape. Because
I guess I don't know. I just never have. So my favorite what?
Just anything that you like to drink. Then.
While I sound very, very good about not drinking alcohol, I legitimately drink probably a gallon of diet beverage a day. It's usually Coke Zero.
Right.
I have a refill for $1.19 that I get going to work every morning. It's gone usually by 2:00, and I have to drink more. So
right,
completely unhealthy.
And don't feel bad about not being a drinker. I interviewed Frankie Lancaster last night, and he has never drank either. So, second last one is a bit of a naughty one, Tim. Your favorite female body part?
Okay. Again, I don't want to give too much information here. I appreciate women for whatever. It can be different on everyone.
Of course.
I'm a butt man.
Yeah. So is Bob Holly. We've had the butt a few times. And Tim,
no pun intended. No pun intended.
The last one on 5 Second Frenzy, Tim, is your favorite curse word.
I'm gonna drop. I don't cuss much because I'm a school teacher, but I'm also a wrestler. So maybe an occasional F-bomb will set the tone for what we need. So that's, you won't hear it often, but when you hear it, it means something. And I'm such a dude. And it can be used in so many different ways. Just saying. Is it an adjective? Is it a verb? Is it a noun? I'm just saying. It could be anything. It could be anything you want. So.
It's versatile. It's a versatile word.
It
is.
You hit your toe on the leg of a table. Fuck. You look at a nice butt. You go, fuck.
That's what. That's right. It could be an invitation. I'm just saying. It's like it could be anything.
Well, Tim Storm, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been wonderful. You know what? I'm going to throw one more at the end of 5 Second Frenzy here. Your favorite way to reprimand a naughty student?
They say sarcasm is not a good teaching tool, but it's sarcasm. So it's going to be, seriously? Seriously? You just asked me what we're doing? You just asked me if we're doing anything important today? Didn't I just tell you what we're doing? Anyway, that's sarcasm is not a good teaching tool, and I have it perfected. So good or bad, that's me.
I think no student would have a chance with you if they're trying to be cheeky with you. You're going to cut them down real quick with your wrestling promo experience.
I work heel as a teacher, that's for sure. So
awesome.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Well, Tim Storm, again, thank you so much for your time tonight. DJ, obviously a massive fan of yours. I am too.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to have had you on the show to have the chance to talk to Tim. I know that really meant a lot to you. So thanks for being part of the show, DJ. You. Really appreciate it, man.
Yes. Thank you for
DJ,
having
me. Thank you for caring. Seriously. Thank you for caring.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that I could get to connect you too. It obviously meant a lot to my friend DJ. So Tim, again, thank you. It really means a lot. You're such a busy man. You got a lot going on. So, and also I want to say you should be so proud of what you've accomplished in the wrestling business, starting at the age you did and where you're at right now. And you're still going. The dream is not over yet. You're still going. And we from Perth here, Western Australia, we are very proud of you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And again, it's living the dream. Every time I get in the ring, I'm doing what I dreamed about doing. So thank you guys so much. I enjoyed it.
No worries, brother. Thank you everyone for watching the show here on the WZWA Network. I am your host, Karlifornia and Fury, alongside DJ and our new best friend of the whole wide world, Tim Storm.
That's right.
We will
That's
see
right.
you guys
I'm in.
next time. Thanks, Jim. Bye.
All right. Take care, guys.